Global trade is a vast, intricate web of deals, partnerships, and shifting alliances, connecting nations in ways that shape economies and daily lives across the planet. But sometimes this web tightens and frays, turning what should be cooperation into a battleground where every country fights for its own interests. During his presidency, Donald Trump dramatically shook up America's trade rules. He aimed to protect U.S. jobs and industries by imposing tariffs on a wide range of foreign goods, arguing that America had been treated unfairly for too long. These tariffs made imports more expensive for American consumers and businesses, but they also sparked friction with many countries, including India, one of the world's fastest-growing economies. For years, the US and India had been steadily strengthening their ties, especially in defense, technology, and trade, building a partnership that both sides hoped would shape the future. But Trump's sudden tariffs on Indian steel and aluminum exports changed the tone overnight, casting a shadow over years of progress. India, which had been treated as a strategic partner, suddenly found itself on the receiving end of tough measures, treated less like a friend and more like a rival in a high-stakes game. The tariffs weren't just about economics, they sent a powerful message, signaling a shift in global power dynamics and alliances. India now faced a tough choice: accept the new rules and risk appearing weak, or push back and risk straining a vital relationship with the world's largest economy. Doing nothing could mean real pain for Indian businesses, especially small manufacturers and exporters who depended on the US market to survive. But retaliating with tariffs of its own could escalate tensions, potentially sparking a trade war that would hurt both sides and unsettle global markets. This was more than a simple trade dispute. It was a test of respect, influence, and the ability of nations to stand up for their interests in a changing world. India, rising fast and full of ambition, wanted to be seen as an equal on the world stage, not a subordinate to bigger powers. The abrupt tariffs felt to many in India like a power play, a move designed to force compliance rather than invite negotiation. This perception fueled a heated debate within India about its global standing, its economic future, and how it should respond to challenges from even its closest partners. The Trump-era trade spat forced India's leaders, businesses, and thinkers to rethink their strategy in a world where even friends could quickly become economic adversaries. It was a wake-up call. The old rules of global trade were changing, and India needed to adapt quickly to protect its interests. India now had to decide how to assert itself in a more competitive, unpredictable era, where economic strength and diplomatic skill would determine its place in the world. The conflict was about more than just money or trade. It was about India's identity, its ambitions, and its rightful place among the world's leading nations. The stage was set for a new chapter in US-India relations, one that would test both countries' resolve and vision for the future. India was ready to respond, not just with words, but with action, determined to shape its own destiny in the new world order. Indian leaders saw the US tariffs as more than just economic policy. These measures were interpreted as a direct affront to India's ambitions and its growing role on the world stage. They saw them as a direct challenge, not only to India's economy, but also to its national pride and sovereignty. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh suggested these measures were meant to slow India's rise, hinting that the US was uncomfortable with India's increasing influence in global affairs. For decades, India enjoyed special trade status with the US, allowing many goods to enter tariff-free, which had helped Indian businesses grow and created jobs across the country. When President Trump ended this arrangement, the new tariffs felt like an economic attack, a sudden reversal that caught many by surprise and sent shockwaves through Indian industries. Indian officials believed the US was trying to keep India from becoming a bigger global player, interpreting the move as a strategic attempt to limit India's economic and political ascent. The loss of trade privileges stung, but the real issue was pride and sovereignty. Many in India felt that their country was being unfairly targeted and disrespected on the international stage. In response, India imposed its own tariffs on American goods like almonds and apples, sending a clear message that it would not simply accept unfavorable terms. This was a calculated move to show India wouldn't be pushed around and that it was willing to stand up for its interests, even if it meant economic pain in the short term. The government rallied public support, framing the dispute as a matter of national dignity and self-respect, encouraging citizens to see the tariffs as a test of India's resolve. India's firm response sent a message, not just to the US, but to the world, that it would defend its interests, even against the world's largest economy, and would not back down from confrontation. The tariffs became a symbol of a larger struggle for respect on the world stage, highlighting the shifting dynamics of global power and India's determination to be treated as an equal. India's actions were about more than trade. They were about asserting its right to grow, to innovate, and to chart its own path without interference from bigger powers. The dispute unified the country's stance against what it saw as unfair treatment, bringing together politicians, business leaders, and ordinary citizens in a rare show of solidarity. India made it clear it would not be a passive victim, but an active participant in shaping its own destiny, ready to defend its interests on the global stage, no matter the challenge. The trade dispute marked a pivotal turning point in India's foreign policy, signaling a shift from its traditional approach to a more proactive and visible stance on the world stage. Instead of relying solely on quiet diplomacy behind closed doors, Indian leaders began to speak out boldly and publicly, making their positions clear to both domestic and international audiences. Rajnath Singh's public criticism of U.S. tariffs was a defining moment, showcasing a new, assertive India that was unafraid to challenge even the most powerful nations. As India's economy and global influence continued to grow, so did its confidence to stand up for its interests and challenge established powers on the international stage. India was no longer content with being seen as a junior partner. It wanted genuine respect and a meaningful seat at the global table, where its voice would be heard and valued. This new assertiveness was not just about defiance or confrontation, it was about demanding equality, fairness, and recognition in global affairs. India began actively building new alliances, strengthening old partnerships, and making sure its voice was heard in every major world forum. Leaders spoke with confidence to both domestic and international audiences, signaling India's readiness to take on a leadership role and shape the future of global politics. In today's multipolar world, only nations that are confident and assertive can truly shape their own destinies and influence the direction of global events. India's new, stronger voice became a powerful tool for influence, negotiation, and respect in a rapidly changing global order. The message was clear: India would defend its interests openly, unapologetically, and with determination. The world could no longer ignore India's presence. It had to take notice, as a new era of Indian assertiveness had truly begun. India's confidence came from its economic resilience. Despite global headwinds, India's economy kept growing at one of the world's fastest rates. A massive domestic market meant India wasn't solely dependent on exports. When global trade faltered, Indian companies could still thrive at home. Economic reforms made the country more robust and competitive. Leaders highlighted this strength to boost morale and attract foreign investment. India's stability reassured investors and partners alike. The government's message India wouldn't be derailed by protectionist policies. Economic power gave India leverage in negotiations. This resilience was the foundation of its assertive foreign policy. India was ready to weather any storm. Amid the tensions, Defense Minister Rajnath Singh declared, "Sab ke boss to hum hain. We are the boss of everyone." It wasn't about ruling the world, but about a new national mindset. The statement was a bold declaration of self-belief and sovereignty. It told the world India wouldn't be dictated to by anyone. The phrase became a rallying cry for national pride and unity. It marked a shift from humility to self-assurance. India was signaling its ambition to be a rule-maker, not just a rule-taker. The message: India would set its own course, based on its interests. This confidence was about psychological independence. India refused to be treated as a subordinate, regardless of economic size. The declaration captured the spirit of a new, self-reliant India. It was a defining moment in the trade dispute. The US-India trade dispute was part of a global shift toward protectionism. Countries began imposing tariffs to shield their industries, moving away from decades of free trade. The Trump administration's tariffs on Indian goods were just one example. This new era created friction worldwide, as open markets gave way to nationalist policies. For India, protectionism threatened its export-driven growth. The dispute forced India to rethink its trade strategy in a less predictable world. Power dynamics shifted. Large economies used tariffs as leverage. India's retaliatory tariffs showed it wouldn't be coerced. The episode was a lesson in the realities of modern global trade. India learned it had to be strong and resilient to defend its interests. The world was becoming more fragmented and more competitive. The US tariffs reinforced India's push for Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliance. The goal strengthened domestic industries and reduced dependence on imports. The trade dispute gave this policy new urgency. India aimed to protect itself from global supply chain shocks and political disruptions. Building manufacturing capacity was seen as essential for security and stability. Self-reliance wasn't about isolation, but about safeguarding national interests. Leaders believed true strength came from within. The Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign became central to India's rise as a global power. By reducing dependencies, India aimed to operate from a position of strength. Self-reliance was now a core part of India's national strategy. India's rapid economic growth underpinned its confident stance. Despite global challenges, India remained one of the fastest-growing major economies. This growth gave India the resources to invest in defense, infrastructure, and social programs. Economic momentum made India an attractive partner for global investors, even amid trade disputes. American companies continued to invest, drawn by India's vast market. Economic power gave India leverage in diplomacy and negotiations. India's rise was seen as durable, not temporary. This transformation allowed India to navigate complex global challenges. Economic strength was the foundation of India's global ambitions. The Trump-era trade tensions were a sign of a changing world order. Power is shifting and new giants like India are demanding a greater say. The tariff dispute made these shifts visible to all. India's firm response showed it wanted to shape the new world order, not just watch from the sidelines. The push for self-reliance and economic resilience became central to India's strategy. The US and India remain partners and competitors. Balancing cooperation and rivalry will define their future. The dispute proved that even allies can clash sharply. India's actions signaled it's ready to claim a leading role in a multipolar world. Economic strength is now the foundation of international influence. India is no longer content to accept a world order designed by others. It's ready to help shape what comes next.